Sisters and brothers, for the time that's ours to share together this Lord's Day with your prayers and the Holy Spirit's help, I'd like to preach on the thought, mind your business. Let the church say amen. Some years ago, there was a farmer named Joe, and Joe was a good farmer. Joe the farmer was one of the most appreciated and well-beloved farmers in his area because he was hard-working, trustworthy, and loyal. Joe's farm was one of the greatest among all other farms, and Joe raised many animals on his farm, but his pride and joy, his bread and butter, was his horse. Joe's horse was like him. He was one of a kind. He was indeed a stallion. He was a show horse, and he won many competitions for Joe. But one day the horse got sick and sat down and didn't want to stand up anymore. This sent Joe into a panic. He loved his horse. This, after all, was his pride and joy, his bread and butter. So Joe put in an emergency call to the vet. The vet came over to Joe's farm to come see about Joe's horse. After a long examination, the vet said, to be honest, I don't like the way it looks, but we still have to have hope. Give the horse these pills for a few days and let's see if he gets better, but I'm afraid if these don't work, we'll have to kill the horse. I remember Joe had other animals on that farm, and the pig overheard the conversation between Joe and the vet, and since the horse was the pig's best friend, the pig ran and told the horse, you need to stand up. The horse didn't move. The second day came, and the vet came again to examine the horse, but the horse was still in that same situation. The vet told Joe, the old horse is still the same, but let's wait one more day. If he's the same tomorrow, I'm sorry, but we'll have to kill the horse. Joe was sad, and so was the pig. The pig, being the good friend to the horse that he was, went to the horse and said to him, stand up. You really have to stand up. I'm afraid if you don't stand up, something bad is going to happen. Again, the horse didn't move. The third day came, and the vet came too. The vet saw that the horse's condition had not changed, and the vet said to Joe, go and bring your rifle. We have to kill the horse today. The pig overheard and ran as fast as he could to his friend the horse, and he yelled, stand up, this is your last chance. Joe got the rifle, and if you don't stand up now, they're going to kill you. The horse heard the urgency in the pig's voice. He stood up right away and started running around all over the farm. The horse even jumped a few obstacles, and Joe was so excited to see the horse running again. After all, everybody knew that Joe's horse was his pride and joy, his bread and butter. Joe was so happy how the vet had cured his horse. Joe said to the vet, you're a miracle worker. Thank you. We need to celebrate what's happened. Let's kill the pig and have a feast. Beloved, what the pig shows us is that minding our business, doing what we're supposed to do, doing what we've been assigned to do and nothing else, can have serious implications about our destiny. In our text today, Nehemiah is confronted by some of his enemies. The Bible reports Sanballat hears that Nehemiah and his people were rebuilding the wall, and Sanballat gets angry. The text says that he becomes greatly enraged, and he mocks and even threatens them with a military attack. One of the many truths this passage shows us that even in the midst of ridicule, mocking, derision, and delusional rage, this sounds like a tiny word for us citizens of these United States. Even when the enemy's purpose is to thwart God's purpose for God's people, God's purposes still prevail through his promises despite problematic people. Let me say that one more time. That even when the enemy's purpose is to thwart God's purpose for God's people, God's purposes still prevail through his promise despite problematic people. What Nehemiah's leadership and the people's work show us is that a way for you to overcome what's trying to overcome you. Mind to work. Through minding your own business, God provides a way for you to overcome whatever opposition and obstacles get thrown in your way. So the question you got to answer today, church family, is how do I have a mind to work, or more plainly, how do I mind my own business? Well, beloved, if the text be the truth that I believe it is, in order to mind my own business, I must first refuse their ridicule. As with anything, when Nehemiah and the people set out to rebuild the wall around Jerusalem in order to restore their witness, immediately that attract attack. You see, even then, when those ancient Israelite people began to do what the Lord had told them to do, the people around them became angry and started running their mouths. You see, this is nothing new. And even then, these people around them didn't think any topic was off limits in their conversation about them. The text says, when Sanballat heard that they were rebuilding the wall, he said, "What are these feeble Jews doing?" He questioned their intellectual capacity and their physical ability. When Sanballat said, "Build a sacrifice," he was questioning their spiritual motives. When Sanballat said, "Will they finish it in a day?" he questioned their time. When Sanballat said, "Will they revive the stones out of the heaps of rubbish and burn ones at that?" he questioned their vision. And notice who Sanballat said it to. He wasn't talking to himself. The Bible says in verse 2, he said it in the presence of his associates, his friends, and of the army of Samaria. In other words, he told his friends and those who would fight with him. He didn't just write this down in his journal. He didn't just tell his therapist. He just didn't vent to his best friend about it. He told everybody what he thought about everything. Remember here who Sanballat is. Sanballat would have been Nehemiah's peer. He was the governor of the area just north of them called Samaria. You see, Sanballat was no average hater. He had some power. He had some people. And obviously, he had some problems. Like Nehemiah, beloved, you have to learn how to mind your own business. So I was once told, other people's opinions about me are none of my business. You have to learn how to refuse their ridicule. Just like Nehemiah, when you set out to do what God told you to do, when you put your hand to accomplish the vision God allowed you to see, when you organize your life in such a way to get what God told you to get done, don't think that others won't notice. And surely don't think that others won't have an opinion about it. Like Nehemiah, when you do what God told you to do, some Sanballats are sure to come in your life. They will question everything about you. Like Sanballat did, they'll question your intellectual capacity and physical ability. She's not smart enough. Where did she go to school? He's not strong enough. Who's he trying for? They'll question your spiritual motives. Wasn't she just in the club last week? Did he just try to fight somebody? Oh, she must think that just because she goes to church now that we don't know about her. Sanballat's calling. They'll question your timing. He's too young. She's too old. The economy's too unstable. She should have done that years ago. He needs to wait. They'll even question your vision. Who does she think he is? Who does he think he is? And what do they think they're going to do? Beloved, there's a time and place for everything. There's a time and place to stand up. There's a time and place to set the record straight. There's a time and place to let folks know exactly who you are. But oftentimes, that ain't most of the time. You have to learn how to refuse to take the bait, refuse to be gaslighted. You have to learn how to refuse their ridicule. An Army officer asked President Lincoln if he could write an article defending the administration against attacks that were being made by the Committee on the Conduct of the War. Lincoln replied, "If I were to try to read, much less answer all the attacks made on me, this shop might as well be closed for any other business. I do the very best I know how, the very best I can, and I mean to keep doing so until the end. Because if the end brings me out all right, what is said against me won't amount to anything. But if the end brings me out wrong, 10 angels swearing I was right would make no difference. Beloved, people are going to say what they're going to say. And you and I can't change that. We can change how we respond. We have no greater example than my Lord and your Savior, Jesus Christ, who is perfect in all of his ways, sinless in all of his dealings, merciful in all of his actions, the very Son of the living God. Yet and still on Calvary, dying for the sins of the world, the people stood round about the foot of the cross, mocking him and spitting on him, and even the thief next to him, who really did deserve to die, joined in ridiculing him and said, "If you be the Messiah, why don't you come down and save yourself?" I'm so glad that Jesus didn't answer him. He refused their ridicule. Because if he had, he would have been stooping beneath himself and beneath the high purpose of God for his life. Church, I'm so glad that he said these words there from the cross of Calvary. "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." If he had responded to the ridicule, our souls would still be lost. There is too much, brothers and sisters. There are too many lives connected to you. There are too many folk for you to bless, too many folk for you to change, too many folk for you to touch and transform, for you to stoop beneath your high potential, to go under God's high purpose for your life over what somebody else said that in the end won't amount to anything. Teddy Roosevelt said, "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbled or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by the dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly." Church family, you've got to refuse their ridicule. Not only that, if you're going to mind your business, you've also got to reclaim your righteousness. Something I love about this passage is that when Nehemiah hears Sanballat's ridicule, he doesn't only not answer them, he doesn't even provide a literary transition in the text. Look at it in verse 4 of your Bibles. Nehemiah doesn't even report, he doesn't even write down the phrase, "Then I pray." He does that earlier in chapter 1, verse 4, and in chapter 2, verse 4. But here, in chapter 4, verse 4, Nehemiah doesn't have time to set it up. He doesn't have time to let you know what he's about to do. He doesn't have time to get down to the church and lay down at the altar. Doesn't even have time to get on the prayer line, although you should get on the prayer line. Nehemiah just busts out to pray. He says there, "Hear, O our God, for we are despised. Turn their talk back on their own heads and give them over as plunder in the land of captivity. Do not cover their guilt and do not let their sin be blotted out from your sight, for they have hurled insults in the face of widows." Be clear here, beloved. Nehemiah is not praying for revenge. Nehemiah is praying for righteousness. Nehemiah is praying for God's justice. And hear me, ain't nothing wrong with praying for God's justice. A whole lot of examples of that in the Bible where people pray just like this because of all the evil stuff going on in the land. Just peruse through the Psalms and read David. As a matter of fact, like Nehemiah, as we mind our business and go about the work that God has given to us anyhow, we ought to couple that with praying and praying hard for justice. Because there's no reason to do what we're doing for God. There's no reason to rebuild the broken places if we're still going to be broken people. To do the work God called us to do, we ought to be praying for justice. We ought to be praying and praying hard. Praying that this racism and xenophobia against migrants will stop. These deplorable conditions at the border ought to come to an end, and ICE ought to stop terrorizing folks. We ought to be praying and praying hard that the systematic oppression of the black vote by redlining and gerrymandering and purging of the rolls and voter ID laws ought to stop. We ought to be praying and praying hard that our world leaders get it together. Recognize that climate change is real. As that young woman, Greta Thunberg, said this week at the UN, people are suffering, people are dying, and all we can talk about is money and fairy tales and internal economic growth. Church, we don't pray for anything else. We ought to be praying and praying hard that the House and the Senate would get on one accord with these proceedings from the Lord. Y'all picking up what I'm putting down? Church, we ought to be like Nehemiah. We ought to be praying and praying hard for God's justice. Since we got these jerseys on today, too many of us pray it's like the national anthem before a football game. Some of us may choose to kneel for it. It gets the game started, but it has no connection with what's going on the field. Church, we've got to learn how to reclaim our righteousness. We've got to realize why we're here. We've got to realize why God has put us where He put us. We've got to realize why we are where we are when we are. We've got to realize why we are called to do the things we're called to do, and that means all things. The hard things, the rough things, the uneasy things, the things that bring us ridicule from others. Part of that is remaining in communication with the one who called us. See, there will be times when discouragement will come. There will be times when it seems like we don't know what we're doing or why we're doing it or what we're even doing it for. But we've got to reclaim our righteousness. Like Nehemiah, the people may not change immediately. The circumstances around me may not get better overnight. Things may continue on in their current course, and they might even get worse. You see, God's justice operates in the kairos. It operates in God's time, which may or may not be the same time that I want him to come. Like that old preacher used to say back home in Tennessee, he may not come when you want him to come, but I guarantee you'll want him when he does come. A farmer found a little girl that was lost in his field. The farmer said to her, "Don't cry, I'll take you home." The little child snuggled up to him with a smile and said, "I knew you would. I was waiting for you." "Waiting for me," said the man. "What made you think I was coming?" She said, "I was praying you would." He said, "Praying? When I first heard you, you were singing A, B, C, D, E, F, G." He said, "What was that for?" She looked up and said, "I'm just a little girl. I was praying all the letters of the alphabet and letting God put them together the way He wanted to. Because He knew I was lost. And He knew how to put them together better than I could." Come here and let me bless you. God knows what you need. You just have to know that you need God. You got to trust Him. And in this fight, in this life, on this journey, every now and then, just when you need Him most, like that farmer, He'll come along. He'll step right in. He'll send you an answered prayer. He'll remind you of His righteousness. He'll remind you that you are the head and not the tail. That you are above and not beneath. That you're the leader and not the ball. That you're the first and not the last. That you're blessed going in and blessed coming out. He'll remind you that you are the righteousness of God. That you are more than a conqueror. That you can do all things through Christ Jesus who strengthens you. He'll remind you that by His stripes you are healed. By His chastisement you have peace. By His blood you are forgiven. By His grace you are saved. Lord, I've got to get on out of here. I don't want you to stand between church folk and people. If you want to mind your business, you must not only refuse their ridicule, you must not only reclaim your righteousness, Thirdly and finally, you must rebuild God's requirements. Text says, after all this, after they were ridiculed, after Nehemiah prayed, verse 6, so we rebuilt the wall. All the wall was joined together to have its height, for the people had a mind to work. Church family, you see, a part of minding your business is just that, getting to your business. God told Nehemiah to rebuild the wall. God told Nehemiah to restore their wickedness. Nehemiah finished up that nighttime ride around the city, surveying the ruins. In chapter 2, he came back with a vision from the Lord to share with the people. Nehemiah came back and said, come, let us rebuild. The hand of my God has been gracious upon me. The people responded then, let us start rebuilding. You see, their vision was doing what God put in their heart. Their business was doing what God had put his hand on them to do. So what God put his hand on them to do was to rebuild the wall. Not put their hands on somebody else. Their business was to be about God's business. Their business was not about worrying about what Sanballat said. Their business was not worrying about what Tobiah said. Their business was not even worrying about what the Samaritan army might do. Their business was to be about God's business. Their business was to have a mind to work. Their business was to repair the breaches. Their business was to rebuild what God required. John Kenneth Galbraith was an old economist in the early 1900s. He was called upon by many dignitaries to help sort out economic markets. He tells the story that once he had a long and weary day. He asked his assistant Emily to hold all of his phone calls while he took a nap. Of course, shortly after he retired to rest, the phone rang, and it was Lyndon B. Johnson, the then President of the United States. President Johnson told Emily, get me Ken, this is President Johnson. But Emily responded, he's sleeping, Mr. President. He said not to disturb him. President Johnson said, maybe you didn't understand. I'm President Johnson. Wake him up. I want to talk to him. Emily said, well, maybe you don't understand, Mr. President. I work for him and not for you. You see, Emily understood an important truth. She was a servant to one man and obeyed his wishes explicitly. Her loyalties were to Mr. Galbraith and to Mr. Galbraith alone. Come here and let me bless you. Your loyalties are to God and God alone. You don't work for Sanballat. You don't work for Tobiah. You don't work for that Samaritan army. You are to do what God told you to do. God told you to rebuild. God told you to restore. So, bye-bye now. Happy family and friends.